All right, Forza fam, it is Monday, August 19th, 2024, and we are coming to you live from, well, driving as per usual. A lot of driving the last couple of weeks. But it is August 19th, it's a Monday, and this week, some colleges and universities, students return back to campus with those returning new hopes, new dreams, new desires. And for those who are going to college and campus at the same time, with unlimited expectations and possibilities of where their lives might take them. And for today, I feel like it's a yearly conversation about expectations and where we want to go. And because we're coming at you from the car, and it's going to be a little longer of an episode, but we're going to break it down into digestible chunks for everybody, similar to what we've been doing with the throwing circle. So if you've watched any other videos and you're interested in reviewing the book, please shoot me a DM, and I would be more than happy to send you a really rough draft that the editors are still kind of going through with layout and formatting and everything. So with that said, expectations, goal setting, where do we want to go? And I'm going to take this intro, I guess, or early time here, because I do this every year myself also. Usually I would have it coincide with the start of a new school year, being an educator, being in schools and stuff like that. And this is no different rather. I'm an educator in a school, college, university, and the students that are going to be taking my classes this fall, there's expectations and there's a sense of accountability because, to move forward in the education program, you need to meet certain parameters, grades, homework assignments, etc. And that is not unlike life or college athletics, and in this sense, the backdrop is track and field, right? Where every fall semester, beginning, at the end of August, for the most part, we start with a clean slate. Our freshmen are coming in. Maybe they have a little bit of experience of high school competition. Maybe some are just showing up for the first time. And our returning athletes, even though their slates are not completely clean per se, their seasoned ones are. And conversation for one returning athlete, conversation for a new college athlete, there's going to be some similarities and some differences. So we'll start with our newbies first here, right? So we have our new freshmen coming in, ready to set the world on fire, much like I was at Fredonia, which did not go well, but I didn't know any different, and I would still move forward with the same desire and expectation of that 18-year-old today as well, because I didn't know any different, and nobody took the time to share nuances and differences with me. I just didn't know, and I thought I was going to set the world on fire, and nobody was able to reel back the reins or have a conversation with me about this is what the reality might be. And I was talking to somebody about this, about shooting for the moon and you land in the stars and what have you. And I see that perspective from two different lenses. I, as a coach, I do not want to sell my athletes a bill of goods about where they should be at a certain point in the season, right? So with a new athlete who's never competed before, essentially we really don't know until they start practicing and we have a meet or two or three under our belts until we're able to see, what lies beneath. And I would never tell an athlete that I was working with for the first time that you're going to be this massive superstar, or you're going to be this great thrower or this great track athlete or what have you, without seeing anything first, for a couple reasons. One, that's extremely unfair to the athlete. And two, that is irresponsible by the coach. I never saw Lewis compete. I never saw Lewis do anything up until that first day of practice. And never in my wildest dreams did I think that he would turn into the thrower that he turned into. So would it have been different if I would have told them otherwise the first meeting? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I would not have done that otherwise. And it's not fair to the athletes either to put this unnecessary stress or frustrations on them, or anxiety and about expectations. I wouldn't do it. So that's one thing, right? So you sit down, and I've talked about this. I don't want to say ad nauseum because I think that's kind of derogatory, but I think the message is really important for us to be on the same page with the people that we're working with. And that's not just track, that's life, right? I need to be on the same page with the students that are enrolled in my college courses. They need to know what is expected of them, and I want them to share what's expected of me as far as being the person that's going to share this information with them and knowledge and what have you and so forth. So we're going to sit down, right, and we want to know where we want to get, right? And I wouldn't meet with the freshmen the first couple weeks of classes. I'd wait till like the middle of September, let them get their feet wet, let them get, kind of like ready, or not ready, but let them get acclimated to college. And then I would talk to them about what their expectations are for the season and how they see us getting there together, right? So I want to throw 50 feet in the men's shot put, okay? So that's what your outcome goal is. That's what we're going to be chasing. That's what we want. So what are we going to do to get there? If they've never thrown before and they want to throw the shot put 50 feet, okay, that's going to be a little bit more work for everybody. It's not unheard of to throw 50 feet, but for our example, that's what we're going to talk about. The second thing after that would be the purpose why. Like, what's the drive for the athlete to want to get there? Like, why are they driven to throw 50 feet? I'll just give you an example. In the SUNY conference, 50 feet, you won't win necessarily. You'll score. You'll finish in the top 8, but wanting to throw 50 feet might not get you the winner. More often than not, it will. Okay. So I would ask why this mystical number of 50 is really important. Is it because it's just 50 feet? Is it because it's a nice round number? 1524 in meters. Like, what is it about that? And what kind of skill set do we need to develop in order to get there? So if they've never thrown before, we're starting from scratch. But if they have thrown before, that's really where things can get more interesting as far as what we need to do in order to elevate ourselves to get to that specific distance, to get to that number. Okay. With our returning athletes, the conversation goes much differently, I think. Okay, this is how last season went. Hopefully you had a conversation with the athlete about what they thought went well, what didn't go well, what we can work on in the future. And you do that at the start of the season also. Give them a week or two to get acclimated back to campus and then the routine and the rituals of going to class and training and working out and stuff like that. But then really, I would really dig in and push. And I used to do that with my athletes because we would come back and I always had, although I never shared it with them initially, I would always have extremely high expectations of where I thought we could go. So Lewis and Brandon at NAS, after their freshman years, the numbers that they produced, the points that they scored at conference and state championship, stuff like that, I had extremely high expectations. I had a sneaking suspicion that we would have that we could have won the weight in the shot indoors at E8s, and that outdoors that we could have won the hammer, the discus, and possibly the shot put also. So in my mind, I thought that we could have won those 3 throwing events outdoor and both indoor. And that was based on their performances the year prior at the same meets, right? They were both gamers. They always had great performances when it mattered most. But I wouldn't talk about that the first meeting. I would talk about where they thought they wanted to go and what we needed to do in order to get there, right? What were their expectations, or what are their expectations about that? So if they trained over the summer and they threw really well, okay, like maybe we need to stretch a little bit. Or we trained and we threw and maybe things didn't go as well, or maybe we didn't increase our best performances from the year before over the summer. Okay, then we need to talk about that. But I think the communication piece between coach and athlete is going to be the most critical component of where these athletes, where your athletes, where our athletes, where the athletes are going to go. If we're not able to feel comfortable with them, and we don't feel comfortable having a conversation with them about this stuff, then I don't think it's going to work too well. And I spend a lot of time talking about that in the throwing circle also, because I think the communication that Lewis and I had, and how fluid and how receptive we were of each other's thoughts, that really helped propel him farther sooner. If there was going to be resistance, or if he didn't like something, or if I didn't like something, it would have made things much more difficult. There could have been, negative connotations or just negative feelings towards each other. The commitment may have been lacking. And always these meetings, always with a piece of paper, right? With the athletes writing down what they want to do ahead of time, and then us as coaches just trying to kind of fill in the pieces, if you will. And I think it's so important to get off on the right foot early on in the season, because we want to make sure that our athletes know that we're working with them on this plan, that it's not something that we created for them and said, this is a cookie cutter approach, this is what every 50-foot shot putter, 12-meter shot putter, whatever, does to get here. Everyone's going to be different, and anybody who's been to nationals knows that every throwing athlete comes in different shapes, different sizes, not your stereotypical what you would expect a thrower to be, which I think is interesting now, moving into the direction of we don't have those stereotypes, or we shouldn't have those stereotypes of what a successful thrower might look like at the college level or professional level, right? Like if you look at the discus, Val Allman, I mean, she is not what you would consider a prototypical maybe discus thrower, right? So with that said, that has to come into play as far as conversation with your athletes. The body types and things like that is more of a digression, or I guess like a side thought about something. But we really want to engage them in that process and help them feel good and understand that this is where we want to go, and this is where they want to go, and this is how we're going to get there. And one of my favorite Judd Logan quotes of all time: a bad coach believed in is going to have more success and more successful athletes than a good coach whose athletes don't believe in them. And I've never considered myself necessarily a really great coach or anything. I never considered myself a horrible one. Although those first 2 years at Fredonia were pretty rough. I don't know, we were borderline horrible or just unorganized, lacked a lot of vision and execution on things. But I think we need to really get that across with our athletes, and the kids that we're working with. We owe it to them to provide the best environment, create the best environment, the best opportunity for them to be successful and